Welcome. So, today I'm going to talk about the illusion of control and the power of presence. And this really follows on from my last video where I explored just how much responsibility we give our business to make us feel a certain way, whether that's peaceful or happy or content. It doesn't really matter what word you're using. But in that last video, I really spoke about the illusion of this equation that we put into our lives. And this equation is, when I have X, I will feel Y. And it doesn't really matter what X is, to be fair, because the equation falls down at the first hurdle, because it's just not true. It's a paradox. We think that through success, perhaps that's your X, whatever you call success, or through just being really busy. Like for me, for a long time, it looked like if I just did enough, and that was a multitude of different things, but if I just did enough, then I would feel peaceful, I would feel calm, I would feel happy, etc., etc. And of course, that didn't work, because it doesn't work. And this can even seep into spiritual practices or self-development practices. When I've perfected whatever it is, when I've done enough affirmations, when I've done enough miracle mornings, when I've done enough of whatever it is, I will finally reach this nirvana, this place of peace. But you've probably noticed that that is just flipping exhausting. It's probably the only way to put it. It is exhausting. It doesn't matter how much you do. Have you noticed that there's always more to do? Because just practically there is. So you can never, you can get to the end of the list today, but I guarantee you will not get to the end of the list. If you run a business, it's not a thing. Sorry, but it's just not a thing. You will never be on top of everything. You will never be there wherever there is. And it's the same with whatever you define as success, whether that is monetary or clients or whatever it is. Have you noticed that you get there and then, that feeling of feeling okay lasts just a moment or two before you're on to the next thing. And with the spiritual practices and the self-development and stuff, what I found was that I just had to keep doing them. I had to keep doing them over and over and over again in order to feel okay. And that is, those things are all fuels for stress. They're not going to take your stress away. And of course, stress is fundamentally very much the opposite of peace. Excuse my nose, which is running today. And this all of this is the way it is, like the opposite of how we think it is, because of what I share in all my content. My 3 principles understanding that has changed absolutely everything in my life, and I see it changing lives again and again. And that is this inside out truth. Your feelings, how you're feeling right now. And I invite you to just check into that. How are you feeling right now? Have you stopped to absorb this content? Or are you still rushing about doing things? Or are you doing something else? That's my trick. But how are you feeling in your body? Are you feeling rushed up? I recognize that feeling a lot, that, it's like, oh, like in your body, like rushed up feeling. All those feelings, all the feelings that you don't want, and we have many of those, don't we, as human beings? There's a lot of resistance to how we're, what our emotional state is. They're all created by where your focus of attention is. What are you thinking about right now? Not by your business results. I remember once I got up one morning and I was preparing to record. I knew what I was going to do that morning. I was going to record an Insight Timer course about confidence. Check it out; it's really good. And I remember being upstairs. I was so I think when you have a bit of an insight about something, the memory kind of stays there. I was just feeling very rushed and I was getting ready, and as I was getting ready, I just started to feel very heavy in my body and sort of a bit, oh, I don't really want to go, really want to do this. I'm not in the mood. And then I could see my mind going, oh, why don't you do something else then? How to solve this problem. And I stopped and I saw that the story about this confidence course was that it was going to be 10 lessons, and I hadn't made a 10-lesson course before. They'd all been like 5 lessons, 7 lessons. How ridiculous that it would make such a difference that it was 10 lessons. But I could hear, oh, it's going to take you such a long time, this, and oh, do you really want to do something else? It's going to take too long, and then that heaviness in my body was just very present. And that's just, we can see, if we can begin to see that, how the mind creates thoughts, how the mind creates the thoughts, and then we feel that in the body. And that can often feel like resistance in our business. Maybe you have experienced resistance in your business and found yourself coming to your desk and then doing a different thing to what you thought you were going to do or what you actually wanted to do. Your emotions in that sense, and I've said this so many times before, but I'm going to keep saying it because I invite you to really connect to the truth of this. Your body is just there to let you know when you're caught up in unhelpful thinking. That's its job. That's what your body, that's what your emotional state is all about. That's what it's for. And that's like really, really powerful to see. It's really powerful to see that, and that's the truth of it. That's the truth of your emotions, just guidance. So when we think about seeking peace, when we think of, trying to get there to feel peaceful, the only reason we're not feeling peaceful now is because we're caught up in our thinking. And all that striving to micromanage every single outcome, and all that thinking about that, and all that sense of when I've got X, I'll feel Y, that really does pull us further and further away from peace, because peace isn't going to be in the noise of our thinking personal mind. It's not going to be there. And at some point, I'm hoping at some point for me too, because I'm not quite there. I still fall into that trap of control sometimes. And I that's why I can really kind of speak to this, because it's a journey. It really is, of letting go of control. And, I profess to be a recovering control freak, because I still fall into that trap. And that's okay. And in that sense, I say to you that, we all fall back into that trap of trying to control everything out there. And when you're on this journey, if you're, I hope you're on this journey with me somewhere here or on Insight Timer or wherever you're with me on this journey, I think the first thing to let go of is beating yourself up and being hard on yourself, because that's something that, with a layer of that thinking that can fall away. You're always doing the absolute best you can in any moment, with whatever thinking looks true to you, how you're relating to your emotions is how that's happening. And you don't it doesn't help you beating yourself up about it. And if we can start to look in this direction, I think then that there's something powerful in being in the present moment, it being in the now. Like what's now? What if you really stop and take a breath and feel your feet on the floor? What occurs for you to do now in your business? Without a story of where you need to get to, without a sense of having to control some future outcomes so that you can feel okay. But when you just pause and take a breath and just feel what's here, because there might be something here, somewhere in your body, there might be something. I just put my hands on my stomach then, but it could be here in your chest or your heart, or just wherever, or in your shoulders, maybe there's a bit of tension there. Just what's there, just be with that and breathe and see what seems to come next to mind. And watch out for those stories of, when I have X in my business, I will feel Y. Start with Y. Ha! Isn't that a book? But mine's the letter Y, not the word Y. What a cool way to finish. Start with that Y. Breathe into the good feeling first. Allow yourself to settle first. And I pretty much guarantee there'll be something that makes sense to do next. And it might not be one of those things on your list, by the way. It might not be. I hope that's been helpful. I hope there's just a nicer feeling available to you now as you go off into the rest of your day, and whatever you're up to. Thank you so much for being here with me today. Take care. Lots of love.